Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Wow, what a Santa Ana wind event we had in San Diego County. Well, I have some good news and I have some bad news. This is Alex Tardy, National Weather Service in San Diego. More Santa Ana winds are expected in prolonged dry weather, so that is the bad news. Good news is that over the weekend, light winds, even though Santa Ana conditions remain with dry and offshore flow. So we're going to talk about this and more, especially the return of Santa Ana winds potentially for Monday and Tuesday. Okay, the red flag warning has been canceled, but the plan is to issue a new fire weather watch. So weak Santa Ana winds for this weekend, but the air is going to remain dry. So that means cold nights, big ranges in temperatures from early morning to daytime, and that's especially for the mountain valleys and deserts. There are some elevated surf conditions, so be aware of that if you're going down to the beach areas. Now, we're looking at a moderate Santa Ana wind potential for Monday and Tuesday. That's a new event. That's not the same wind event as we just went through. Stronger Santa Ana winds are possible Monday night into Tuesday, so that's the main focus period of concern later Monday into Tuesday. Now, another Santa Ana wind is possible later next week, and we don't see any precipitation potential in the forecast through mid-December, despite the fact that some tropical moisture will get pulled up to the Baja region. I wanted to take a quick look at some of the peak winds. Take a look at your area and see the closest weather station that reported winds. We had some strong winds in the San Diego mountains. In fact, a couple locations, 94 and 95, show up on here. For the most part, some of the significant wind was around Valley Center and Escondido and Alpine, where wind gusts were around 50 to 60 miles per hour. Take a look further north. Really strong winds occurred off of Palomar Mountain and also up in the Santa Ana Mountains. Though the Santa Ana Mountains saw weaker winds than what they saw during Thanksgiving, some of that wind made it all the way down to the I-405 and I-5 corridor. But it was basically less than 30 miles per hour. Over in the Inland Empire, the winds very much ranged from generally light winds around Diamond Valley Reservoir and Lake Matthews to some stronger winds up near Hemet, as shown here. Now, as you went further north, the Cajon Pass, as usual, had some of the strongest winds, with a lot of the stations reporting 50, 60 mile per hour winds right along the mouth of the Cajon Pass. And you can see across the Inland Empire, again, it ranged dramatically. It was windy briefly between Ontario and Chino, but only in the upper 30s miles per hour. Those areas in different type of Santa Ana winds can be much stronger. And same with areas near San Bernardino. This was not a very strong wind event for, say, around Redlands and Highland. So it really depended on what mountain range was either enhancing your wind or protecting you from that offshore wind. Now, this morning, this is what the winds look like, and this is what they're going to look like over the weekend. We're going to see a continuation each morning of these weak Santa Ana winds and confined to our most favorable areas, that is the downsloping or the mountain pass areas just below the mountain crests. We are looking at wind potential returning on Monday. It's going to remain dry. So on the right-hand side, humidity early Monday morning, very dry still. New winds coming down from the north as shown here. So that's going to be our next wind. What kind of winds are we expecting? Well, we think it'll be pretty widespread wind as shown here in the yellow. Those areas will be between 30 and 45 miles per hour. And notice it's not just in the canyons and the mountain ranges. It's also beyond the passes and extends throughout a large portion of the Inland Empire and down into the San Diego valleys as well. Humidity will be very low. As mentioned, it looks like humidity on Tuesday, probably the lowest humidity between Monday and Tuesday. We'll see values down to around 10%. So we never really recover from the current Santa Ana wind. Here are some of the details and some of the winds we expect. In general, we think it's going to be a pretty uniform type of event. not just focused in one area. So everyone's going to get in on the wind action. A lot of places will see gusts 40 to 55 miles per hour. I think even in some of our coastal areas, we'll see some wind gusts of 15 to 30 miles per hour. Now, some of our wind-prone areas, downwind of the mountains as the storm passes through and the Santa Ana winds develop, could see wind gusts up around 65 miles per hour. So the bottom line is Monday and Tuesday, windy conditions, and that'll bring critical fire weather conditions because it remains so dry. Speaking of dry, fuel moistures and the energy in that fuel is now back to October levels, and that means it's back to some record levels. So we saw record low in October, then we had a little bit of rain in early November, and now we're back to record dry conditions, unfortunately. And it's a lot like what we saw in December 2017. We've seen not enough precipitation. So one storm in Southern California is basically being erased. You can see it lingering across the San Diego mountain areas, but each day we go into December without rain, that's going to shrink. So this is percent of average precipitation since October 1st. You can see a large portion of California is less than 50% of average. What's the new weather pattern shaping up to be? Quite complex, actually. So our current low pressure area in the upper level atmosphere is now over Mexico to our south. That's going to lift out west to east into the plains and gather some moisture as it moves across the Gulf of Mexico. Upper level high pressure will dominate this weekend for mild conditions, and then surface high pressure will bring weak offshore flow, weak Santa Ana wind this weekend as well, as shown on the right. So this current weather pattern will start to shift. Now when we get into Monday, a new weather system drops down directly from the north, Idaho, Nevada. So a very dry weather system breaks off from the main jet stream shown here in the red line. It actually drops all the way down into northern Baja, as shown here on the right-hand side on Monday. So that in itself doesn't have any moisture, but it goes up and over the high pressure area aloft and creates more wind, and that's going to be an offshore wind. So take a look at this. By Monday and Tuesday, that upper level system cuts off from the main jet stream, literally leaves it, so it doesn't have anything to push it along, and it stalls over northern Baja. Now, it will try to drop tropical moisture into the Baja region, but for us, we're going to be on the dry side, it looks like, and new surface high pressure over the Great Basin will bring that northeast to southwest flow, that tight pressure gradient, as shown here, between the low pressure, even at the surface, in the California Bight, and the high pressure at the surface over Salt Lake City. So the bottom line is a different type, but Santa Ana wind pattern. What changes? Well, it looks like next week, that low pressure system, boy, it takes its time. Even by Wednesday, it's still to our south, drawing moisture into the Baja region from the tropics. But it looks like it's going to take a path to the east and south of us as a new weather system goes by to our north along the main jet stream or red line. Unfortunately, that new weather system by Thursday, yeah, that takes a path across the Great Basin, so that will induce some more Santa Ana wind, it looks like. We're looking further out into mid-December, and we're not seeing much opportunity. This is an example of dozens of computer models averaged out, but it shows dry conditions mid-December. Some hope towards the end of December, maybe some wetter weather will return, at least in Northern California. Here are the highlights. Light offshore flow and mild days this weekend, and that's going to be good, though we remain very dry. So still elevated fire conditions. New Santa Ana wind develops on Monday, strongest Monday night into Tuesday. This is the peak Santa Ana season, but we are usually not this critically dry. We're a lot like the conditions we saw in 2017. Very dry air will come in on Monday and Tuesday along with that wind. Continued drying of the fuels despite the rain we had in early November, so that's not good. And that's why even with light winds, we're in elevated fire conditions. High fire danger remains is the bottom line, especially for wind-driven fires. And the winds are going to be more widespread and in some different areas on Monday and Tuesday, so keep that in mind. Some localized strong winds, up near around 60 miles per hour, could cause some damage to power lines and trees. Then we get more Santa Ana wind potentially later next week, so stay tuned for that as well. So 2 more events looks like they're in the forecast period. Now, I don't want to forget some cold mountain temperatures because of this dry air, and also some elevated surf on the coast. Does look like the elevated surf is not timed with some king tides, so that's good to limit the coastal flooding. Make sure you tune in to weather.gov before you make plans, and also if you need to know about fire weather watches and red flag warning conditions, anything related to the wind, please tune into weather.gov. Follow us on Twitter as well if you prefer social media. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and be safe.